Hi everyone, it's Amikoto here. I wanted to answer one of the requests that I got on one of my Force tutorial videos. This is by Vesper8, and they were looking for a breakdown video for the song Levitate. I will have a link to the map in the description. This is the first time that I've played the map, so you'll get to see from Sightread to optimize score. And this is just kind of a straight playthrough, and I'll have commentary over it. Not meant to be a super polished video. I just wanted to get something out kind of quickly so that you can see how I approach things. And yeah, so let me know in the comments if there's a preference on like camera angle or on whether you want first person view or third person view. For this one I did do mixed reality, third person, and the camera is directly behind me. It makes it a little bit difficult to see some of the notes sometimes, but I figured it highlights my movements a lot better. So that's kind of the focus of this one, is just kind of how I move, how I'm turning my body, and things like that to give myself more space to approach certain patterns. But if you prefer like a third person orb view or a first person view instead, let me know and we can look at changing that up for future videos. I do want to do more of these because I think it's a little helpful to just kind of go straight through a map and analyze it like that. And I can get these videos out much faster than if I'm trying to do a full-on tutorial video. So if you have any other requests for other playthrough videos, let me know in the comments, or you can DM me on Discord. Link to my Discord will be in the description as well. But yeah, if you enjoy this, please like and subscribe, and let's get going on the actual video. Okay, so this first run is just a sight read. I checked my scores and playthroughs and it says that I have 0, and I was actually a little surprised by that, but then I realized I think I was remembering playing the Audica map of this actually. So yeah, this is just kind of playing through, getting a feel for the map, not really looking to get a super optimized score. And yeah, sight reading is not one of my strengths. So you will notice a lot of dropped notes for this first playthrough. That's pretty normal for me. I'd actually venture to say that it's pretty normal in high level Force in general. There's kind of an ongoing joke that if you don't miss a note, then you're not playing Force right. And that's mostly because the act of chasing after those perfect hits can make you miss notes entirely, just because you need that velocity, and sometimes the velocity will carry you straight past the note as you try to hit it. So as I was going through this, I noticed that I was having some difficulties really getting through to the end of the rails, hitting those end rail notes. So in my future playthroughs, and also just kind of moving forward in this one, I started focusing a little bit more on following through the end of the rails. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I really like dancing when I play, and I'm not really dancing as much in this one. And the reason for that is because I'm in score chase mode, and so when I enter score chase mode, I don't stop all movement, but I do try to have a little bit more control over what I'm doing, where I'm moving, just because score optimization really calls for movement control, which isn't something that dancing necessarily encourages. It is possible to dance while getting good scores, but it is a little more difficult. It takes a higher skill level to be able to do that. For those of you who aren't familiar with my score color scheme, right now I have it as perfects are black and then goods and pours are red. The reason I have it like that is because I'm not really concerned with what notes I'm hitting perfect, because those are good, I don't need to worry about them. But I do want to focus on where I'm not quite getting to that perfect threshold. And so that's why I have goods and pours as red. I know some people prefer to have perfects as like a bright green and goods and pours orange or yellow and red. But personally, I really just want to ignore the ones that I'm doing well, since I'm already doing those well, and then just highlight my focus areas. It really is up to you. It depends on your preference and how you work personally. If you work better with reward than with punishment, then you may want to go ahead and make your perfect screen and focus on the perfects instead of focusing on the pours. Really up to you, but I do encourage you to change your score colors in some way so that way you can tell the difference between your perfects, goods, and pours without having to squint to read the number. Okay, so we completed our first run. We're going to just check out how we did. Looks like 12 pours, 20 goods. Definitely want to get those lower. And of course not miss the notes. That would help. So right back into the next playthrough. Something I want you guys to notice, especially in the slow section here, is that I'm focusing more on hitting kind of the side of the notes rather than the front. I'm swatting the notes to the sides. I think that's something that especially a lot of beginners to force get kind of hung up on, is that they're trying to hit the front of the note versus the side of the note, and because of that it's much harder to get perfects that way. You really want to focus on moving through the notes versus moving in front of the note. So those little twisty parts, the spirals, are a little difficult for me. I realized during this run through that I was having a bit of difficulty doing those kind of arm twisty motions, mostly because I was worried about clacking my controller. I can't remember which run it was, but during one of these I actually did clack my right controller, lost my blue orb for a little while, and it's mostly due to not having enough space to fully wrap around those notes. It's definitely doable. It just took me a few runs to really understand how I needed to move in order to not just hit my own arms. So that cross on the rail, I noticed, was a difficult thing for me to do. I wasn't quite getting far enough in my hit during the cross. Okay, second run through is complete. Still missed some notes, but overall it was better than the first run. And you can see that here with the 8 pours, 16 goods. We can definitely get that better, so I'm heading straight into the next run. Notice how I'm almost hitting the backside of the head note of these rails. This is something that I do quite a bit. Especially when I'm cutting through the note streams like this. It kind of helps me from moving too early, just to think about hitting the note as it's going past. Again, it's the difference of like catching the notes versus swatting them away. I do more of the latter, whereas if I was playing rhythm, I would do more catching motions, trying to position myself ahead of the note. Also notice how I extend past the notes when I do the streams. So I'm almost doing like a connecting the dots motion, but going past the dots. So I'm like kind of tracing along on the outside of the path, or even just cutting through the path. So you're not moving point to point, you're moving past the points, if that makes sense. And again, I'm paying special attention to the end notes of those rails. Those can be a little tricky if you don't notice them. Quite often I use rails as a rebound time. So I kind of use them as a moment of rest almost, where I don't really have to move as much. I can reset my arm positions. If I find like my arm got too straightened out, I can use it to pull my arm back. You can kind of see it here how I like scoop along the rails. And notice I'm not just moving on the x-axis, I'm not just moving on a single plane. I'm using the full like three-dimensional space. I'm winding my arms back and pushing them forward. Just kind of doing whatever I can to keep that momentum going. It's even to the point where you'll see me like twist my body, angle my torso, so that way I can get a better angle at the notes. So there's a lot to consider, a lot that goes into figuring out what works for you. And that's why force is kind of difficult to really coach on, is because it's entirely dependent on what your physiology is. It depends on how long your arms are, how tall you are, just the way that your body moves. There's so many factors that go into it, and a large part of it is just figuring out what works for you. So you can see just from the beginning here, I'm starting to get more of the flow of the song. I kind of started figuring out where I should start cutting through the stream of notes, so that way I can continue the stream all the way to the end without running out of arm extension space. I noticed this section here in previous runs I had forgotten to get that end note on the rail, and so I kind of added in a small, I don't know if it's not really a wrist flick, it's more like a wrist roll, if that makes sense, to just kind of get that last note. There's kind of a common misconception that you need to flick for force, or that flicking is a better method of playing. Personally, I don't really do a lot of flicks. If I do, it's very light. It's not anywhere near the level of wrist flicking that you use in like Beat Saber or anything like that. a lot of it is mostly just moving the entire arm. Sometimes I will lead with my wrist so that way my hand trails behind my wrist movement. It's just a way to kind of delay my motions even more, so that way I'm even more sure that I'm not getting ahead of the notes. But yeah, I would say for my style of force, I personally use more full arm movements, and then if I do need to, I will use more of the kind of like wrist rotations. Okay, finally got that full combo. And this one, accuracy was still up, 5 cores, 11 goods. So we are slowly getting better. So something else you'll notice as we continue to go through this is that I'm just playing straight through the song each time. I'm not really stopping and using practice mode to hone in on specific sections or get really into individual patterns. Part of that is personal preference. I've found that I don't do very well if I try to isolate these patterns and practice them separate from each other without the context of the rest of the map. So I've kind of moved away from that. I don't really practice individual sections. If I want to practice a map, I practice the map as a whole. And that's personal preference. I found that I just get into the bad habit of either not concentrating as much on the rest of the map or messing up right after I ace that section in the final playthroughs when I do try to practice sections in isolation. So I don't do that. That's not to say it doesn't work. If that works for you, then by all means do it. I just seen a comment about wanting tips or advice on how to use practice mode to help out with learning maps, and unfortunately I don't have a lot of experience with that, so I'm probably not the right person to be asking. I just really like full cohesion when it comes to my practicing, which means I get fewer numbers of practices that I can do before I'm just exhausted. So there's something to be said about efficiency. The way I play is not the most efficient. It's just how I enjoy it, because a lot of times I'm playing because I enjoy playing and not with a specific goal in mind. And so I figured the more I'm playing, the better, because it's just giving me overall experience, even though it's not necessarily helping as much as it could with this individual map. I think it helps just in the long run. You'll notice I still struggled with that cross rail. I've been able to get it every once in a while, get the full thing perfect every once in a while, but it's kind of a consistent difficult point for me. And I don't think I ever quite got that to 100%. I think part of it may have had to do with how deep the cross is and the fact that I have really short arms. So it was kind of difficult to get that deep cross and then come out of it quick enough to hit the next notes as well. And this kind of speaks back to an individual's different physical attributes may help or hinder depending on what it is. Something to note is that synth maps do not scale horizontally, so even if you set your height to be lower than what the default is, it will not scale the horizontal distance of the notes. This means that things like deep crossovers are going to be more difficult for people who are shorter or who have shorter arm spans just because of the distance. For reference, I'm 5 foot tall, 152 centimeters, so that's my frame of reference. You may run into some of these patterns and be like, this is easy, but just keep in mind that different people have different builds. This run was not better, 6 pours, 11 goods, but we got to focus on some of the other sections, so there was still a purpose to running through the map just for practice. So this section where my right hand is crossing under my left, you can see I got a non-perfect there, and that's because I lost momentum as I was trying to get my left hand out of the way. It kind of stalled my right hand's movement. I think one way to address that would be to angle my body instead of trying to hit it straight on. I think if I actually just turned a bit, it would help me untangle my arms enough to keep that velocity. The only difficult part with doing that is that because it changes like your perspective, how you're seeing the notes, the angle that you're looking at them, it's very easy to miss if you're hitting it at an odd angle. So that was a miss. I know this run isn't going to be my high score. It was just a really dumb miss. I have no excuse. It happens. This song has no right to be as catchy as it is. I'm gonna have this stick in my head all day. And of course, the one run that I get that section perfectly is the one where I dropped a note. But I did show myself that I could do it. It is possible. It's just a matter of practice to get that more consistent. Okay, so 4 pours, 9 goods. That was a lot better. Take a water break. Drink water, guys. Don't forget to drink water. That water break reminder is a lifesaver. It's really great. You should turn it on if you don't have it on. And I struggle with this underarm section again. It would definitely be a focus point if I was trying to go for like golds or something. If I'm just straight score chasing, then it's not as big of a deal, simply because it's at the beginning of the map, so we don't even have a full multiplier up, so it's worth less points. Just something to keep in mind if you really want to get into like competitive score chasing. where the note that you get the pores or goods on matters a lot once you get to the higher levels. If you're getting them at the end of the map, your score can be significantly lower than if the ones you get are at the beginning of the map, even if your overall accuracy is about the same. Again, missed the note there. Or, not missed, but I got a good. But I got that one. I got sloppy at the end of the rail there and didn't get the perfect. Yeah, I think the biggest things that I struggled with for this map was the end note, the end of rail notes, and then the crossovers, if I were to point to like two specific things. Still really good score. I think this one ended up being my second highest. We have 8 pores, 4 goods. So I know we can definitely get those pores down, because we were at 5 at one point. Okay, so that intro playthrough wasn't as good as previous runs. At this point, I'm getting pretty tired, just because it's been kind of continuous play up until now with a short water break. Also, keep in mind that I have not played Synth competitively in over a year at this point, so I am very rusty. Lately, I've been focusing more on dance videos rather than score chasing for Synth. I kind of retired from the competitive score chasing world. I think I got one non-perfect in that whole section, so that was pretty good. Still definitely a difficult spot for me though. Paying special attention to the end of the rails here because I had messed up on the section before. I remember just telling myself follow through during the whole part. So this one was a new high score, 4 pours, 8 goods, pretty good, 98.53%. I did end up playing a couple more times, but I wasn't able to beat that score just in this consecutive runs. Mostly because by now I was out of energy. Yes, I know it was only 30 minutes, but the amount of concentration that this takes is kind of tiring. That's another reason why I don't really score chase anymore, just because it is mentally exhausting trying to plot out the paths to figure out how to get from point A to point B while also keeping the correct velocity. So yeah, I know this went a little bit long, but I hope it helped. Let me know in the comments what I can improve on, if there's anything you think I could do better. All suggestions welcome. This is my first time doing something like this, so I'm very, very open to feedback. I do plan on going through this video and kind of clipping out some of the more important tips that I go over and posting them as like YouTube shorts and possibly on my TikTok as well, just so that people have more bite-sized consumable bits of information instead of having to go through and watch a full 30-minute long video. So keep an eye out for those, and again, please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this and want to see more. Thank you so much, and I will see you next time.